footage.
What's up out there, YouTube? Go ahead and subscribe to Raze Chaos for great pop reviews. Spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Wait a minute. Brooklyn? No, we're in Chicago. Spread love Chicago way.
And welcome back, everybody. My name is Raze Chaos. You have made it back to my channel, and it is actually, it is time for the amazing comic book cover that Raze was really excited to see when it came out. Because, you know, Raze loves his obscure characters. And this is actually an obscure timeline that happened that everybody had to read at the time because because we had no choice. Essentially, what led to the Age of Apocalypse was the character of Legion. It is, you know, it's Charles Xavier and Moira McTaggart's son, who essentially could not handle his powers, and it drove him insane. But then at the same time, he had like a ton of power behind that insanity, and in order to make good on his previous misgivings, because Legion has been a villain of the X-Men for many years, and you know, it was his way of trying to get back into his father's good graces. So what he does is he goes back in time to kill off Magneto. And obviously, they send Bishop into the past to try and stop him. And while that battle is ensuing, Legion essentially kills his father. So he ends up killing Xavier. And so, you know, the X-Men, everything that Xavier has put together, the whole legacy of everything, that's all just taken out. And while his best friend at the time, who is Magneto, steps up to try and push Xavier's legacy, carry on his legacy in his name. Since it's not actually Magneto's legacy, a lot of things are different. And since there is no X-Men as we know it, there is nobody to stop Apocalypse when Apocalypse comes to try and take over the world. And he doesn't try to take over the world, he takes over the world. And that's why this timeline is referred to as the Age of Apocalypse. As it says right in here, the Age of Apocalypse. And essentially, since it happens in the past, you get to see the X-Men characters, all the mutant characters, as they were presently, and not like just a full-on watching that entire timeline unravel. You got what would have been the present time. And we're going to go ahead and put this guy away, and we're going to talk about it. So one of the big changes that we got, this, by the way, is an Amazon exclusive, and Raze was really excited about this one because this is the Victor Creed Sabretooth. And what you don't realize is he is one of the leaders, he's one of the field leaders of the X-Men as they are now, the Astonishing X-Men, as the cover implies. This is the cover of the Astonishing X-Men #2. This was the easiest one for Raze to just go ahead and jump onto. He is fighting Holocaust, who is also known as Nemesis. I believe he is one of the characters that actually survived the Age of Apocalypse and was able to come into the 616 universe for a while. Blink, who dies in the Age of... who actually... Blink was a character who died during the Phalanx Covenant right before... That was the storyline before the Age of Apocalypse. She was introduced, she was killed off, but since they were showing how the world was different without Xavier, they took the opportunity to bring this character back in the Age of Apocalypse, because everybody loved the character, and she was very popular, especially at the time. So it was an easy way to say, hey, look, in this timeline, Blink is alive. And she, partners around with Sabretooth because he's essentially been a mentor to him. And his urges are not as wrapped up in his hatred of Logan, Wolverine. While there is a lot of animosity there, he's still able to stay on the righteous path, I guess you'd say, the side of angels. He's still a good guy here, and he was very effective the entire time, all the way through that series. Sabretooth was always one of my favorite characters, but seeing this side of him was just like, oh my god, it's making me love him even more. So yes, he was one of the standout characters that managed to make it into continuity. Obviously, this character did not move on to join the regular universe, at least not yet, not immediately. One of the fun things about it is that the Blink from this time era, who everybody loved, and of course you get rid of the Age of Apocalypse, you don't have Blink anymore. But Marvel did a series called The Exiles, where they had a bunch of people from alternate timelines that would try and save other Earths, alternate Earths and everything, wherever they could. And they would pluck out random characters, usually right before their deaths, so they could go on these other adventures, I guess you'd say, helping to save alternate Earths. And honestly, that was a very excellent series, and it bothered the crap out of me when that ended. But aside from Blink, one of the other characters they did pull from the Age of Apocalypse to put into the current continuity was Sabretooth. And of course, naturally, he rose to be a leadership position within the team because, I mean, if you take away the bloodlust, if you take away the homicidal tendencies in Sabretooth, he's just a badass character. And yeah, it was an absolute scream to see him in that series. I was really excited. And one of the other bonuses that you had that didn't actually happen during the series when you were reading the Astonishing X-Men or any of the Age of Apocalypse comics that had come out during that time, Sabretooth was looked at as a hero, a villain turned hero. He started out bad, but when he saw the threat of apocalypse, he knew that, there's no point in fighting for this world that we can't live on because of this despot, tyrant. So yeah. Well, while the regular Sabretooth has teamed with Apocalypse in the past, in the Age of Apocalypse, he was a little too much for Sabretooth and actually made him turn to being a good guy. And so one of the fun things about the Exiles when they actually went into that series was actually seeing, going to all these other timelines, one of the things they would always encounter was that nobody was used to a good Sabretooth. So the team would already be, mistrusted just because of their field leader. And I always loved that. I love that. I mean, that whole series was just so much fun. Aside from being able to see all these different alternate characters from all these different Earths, not all of them were pre-existing timelines that had turned up in What If. So a lot of them were, which was really cool, because if you had read a lot of the What If stories throughout the years, you could conceivably revisit one of those stories and see how it had progressed from beyond that single issue story. And in some cases, I mean, they don't usually tend out to be good. The What If stories were basically a way of stopping people from saying, well, if they had done this differently, things would have turned out better. Essentially, they would say, "Oh no, it would, if it didn't go the exact way that we said it went in main continuity, it would have been worse." they had a long history of doing that. Like, yeah, it turned out for the best, and we're going to show you why. Just really seemed like a justification for the way stories worked out. But yeah, in this case, this was probably one of the most anticipated covers to come out that Raze got really excited about, because yeah, it was a character that he loved. And he loved Sabretooth as a bad guy, loves him even more as and this gray anti-hero Sabretooth that would fight for the good side. Yeah, and it's one of the things that I really appreciated while reading the Age of Apocalypse, because, like I said, they basically canceled all the X-Men books in order to restart them as the Astonishing X-Men, and Factor X instead of X Factor. Yeah, they really went to town on just totally revamping that world. The big thing that I would have argued about that whole series, which was a lot of fun to read, but the thing that I think what they did wrong is it only affected the X universe. The big problem with it was that although this was happening and time had been splintered, and it basically went rampant throughout all the X-Men related books, what it didn't affect was the rest of the Marvel universe. Like, if you were reading the Avengers, there wasn't this sudden boom. What happened? And leads you back to the X-Men books to figure out what had happened and why everything was so different. You didn't get that. There were several characters from the Avengers that were put in different roles just because of their status in the Marvel universe and where they were left. But yeah, reading the X-Men, you just kind of, it was one of the age-old problems where you're reading this and you're seeing how the world has been affected by Apocalypse taking over it, but you only see how it affects the X-Men. You don't see what else happened. Did Apocalypse kill like all the other super-powered villains or characters in the Marvel universe? They just left a lot unexplained. And I know they tried a couple times, which they did try and show the Marvel Universe Age of Apocalypse, where they tried to show all the other characters. But it's hard to believe that, like, the characters that eventually became the X-Men versus the characters that would become the Avengers. Because, just because they tend to stay in their lanes, with X-Men villains tend to fight the X-Men. If Apocalypse is taking over the world, where is Spider-Man? Where is, Captain America? Where is all these other characters that the Hulk, for example? Like, all these other characters, you can't just pick out one neighborhood of the Marvel Universe and show how that was affected by Apocalypse taking over. It's like, we want to see it all. We want to see what the Asgardians had to say about freaking about Apocalypse becoming the ruler of Earth, or Midgard as they put it. But yeah, they tend to be a little tunnel vision when that comes about. But still, just reading it for what it is, it's absolutely excellent. The biggest problem, aside from that, with the Age of Apocalypse is just how abruptly it starts and how abruptly it ends. Which, obviously, killing one person, yes, you got that. But when you see, like, the differences that happen with the characters, like for Generation X, that got turned into Generation Next. And that was actually led by Colossus, who did not dare return to his human form. He had to stay metallic the entire time due to battle damage that he had taken. And if he had turned back into a biological being, yeah, it would have been something he couldn't survive. And yeah, stuff like that. They really showed, they really like to show you a lot of the damage, and not all of the damage really made sense. But as for this video, though, I think I've spoken more about the character rather than the storyline, which I do think I delved quite a bit into the Age of Apocalypse. Just not the specific issue. Just because Raze sees it as a whole. He sees the entire Age of Apocalypse as one big story, and he doesn't really dice into the individual issues. But yeah, as much fun as this was, love having this. This is a great one for Raze to have, because, you know, I mean, if anything, these things get stacked and put in such a way to where if any poor soul arrives in the Raze Chaos household, they could very easily see something that draws their attention. They're like, oh, this looks different. Tell me about this. And then Raze doesn't say, oh, go watch my videos. Oh, no. Boom. He gets that. You get that right in your face. But for YouTube, you get a playlist of all the different comic book covers that Raze has covered, and is very, very happy to give you more. And very excited about getting this. I think it's so cool that they went this route. Don't think we have a Sabretooth cover beyond this one, but, you know, it's cool. They've still got time. Marvel pops these out like relatively quickly, so you can't be too upset about it. But at any rate now, don't forget there is a playlist that I just mentioned. I look forward to seeing you back on another Wednesday, another comic book cover, because Raze does these as soon as he gets them. And yeah, he can't wait to do them. He like fidgets. Even ordering them, he just basically hops until he gets that cover coming in. And if he sees one in the wild, yeah, most likely Raze has already got that one. Because he's a little too excited, and these are the first things he goes for. But at any rate, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments if you've read The Age of Apocalypse, and who was your favorite character, and what was your favorite difference that they had shown off in The Age of Apocalypse as far as that went. Because there were quite a few differences. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and let you go now, but never forget that life is full of odd moments, and you never know when you're going to be defined.